Carman's Muesli founder, Carolyn Creswell, is on a mission to create a hugely successful brand in Australia's most cutting-edge workplace whilst maintaining an enviable work-life balance for herself and her staff. Like, is that even possible? Before we get stuck into episode 421 of the award-winning Small Business Big Marketing Show, the Marketing Gold is made possible thanks to our great mates at American Express. To find out the right card for your business and to see how your business expenses can reward you, go ahead and Google Amex Business. I think you'll like what you see.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show, where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back to the Small Business Big Marketing Show. I'm your host, Timbo Reid. You, infinitely more importantly, you're a motivated business owner, ready to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it deserves to be. Big show today. Carman's Muesli founder, Carolyn Creswell, she's going to join us and share how she's created a hugely successful business and got some pretty serious work-life balance going. I think you're going to like that. Another motivated listener shares a marketing strategy that's working for them. And we head back to 1989 for one of my favourite advertising jingles ever. One actually that I worked on. As per usual, team, there is marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. Hey, you and I are going to be privy to some outrageously clever marketing ideas over the coming weeks, including how a beer cartel used a simple survey to seriously increase revenues. That sounds like something out of the mafia, a beer cartel. And how a suburban mountain bike store became an 8-figure business. That's like $10 million plus a year. Nice. But right now, let's meet Carolyn Creswell, who in 1992 founded Carman's Muesli, which is today a household brand in Australia with, how's this for a lovely set of numbers, 82 SKUs, that's stock keeping units for those not in the know, available in over 5,000 outlets. She's got 35 staff and an annual turnover in excess of 100 million denaries. Dollars, that is. She also exports to 32 countries. Carolyn is mother to 4 beautiful children under the age of 13 and is reported by the BRW Rich List to have a personal wealth of some $57 million. I don't think I'd like my personal wealth reported. Not that it's going to be, but it feels a bit sticky, doesn't it? Hey, she's incredibly generous in this chat, revealing how she's built such a successful business whilst retaining an enviable work-life balance, how she attracts and retains great staff, the pain point of many small business owners, why she's on a mission to build Australia's most cutting-edge workplace, and so much more. I started off by asking Carolyn how often she gets called Carman.
All the time, and it doesn't worry me at all. It's a great honour, and I answer to it. Except if people know me, after a while I sort of have to say, oh, it is Carolyn.
Where'd the name Carman's come from?
So when I started, whatever that, 25 years
Back in the day?
Back in the day. So I was a uni student that had lots of part-time jobs, and one of my part-time jobs was making muesli. When they told me that they were going to sell this little business, I thought, well, maybe, why couldn't I buy it? So I offered them $1,000 and they laughed at me and said, oh, no, we want more than that. And it took them a couple of months and they couldn't sell this little business. And so eventually they said, all right, then you can have it. And that was with the other lady that worked there.
Carman?
So it's the first 3 letters of Carolyn, C-A-R, and it was the first 3 letters of her name, which is Munya. So we just literally combined them together and made up this name Carman. And it's actually been really good for us.
It has been. I mean, clearly it's a successful business. Are you happy with the name?
Yeah, do you know what's really nice about the name is that it's got this nice kind of personality about it. I think, and it's easy to remember, and and it's quite visually striking. So it actually is quite a strong name when it was really just literally driving to the registration shop and going, we need a name by the time that we get to the counter.
Easy. So you're 18 years old. You're at uni. $1,000, I'm guessing, was a bit of dough for you at the time. What did you see? What did you see in the business?
It was, but I worked behind the register at Coles, and I was a waitress, and I babysat, and so I had sort of saved this money up.
You were flush.
No, but I was always the one thing my parents, and as much as it killed me at the time, they never gave me any pocket money. I always had to earn my own pocket money. And so from that, it meant that I really knew the value of $1 because I knew how long it took me to earn it. And at the time I was earning $8 an hour making muesli. So you just don't go out and, shout the bar willy-nilly, whatever, when you've really busted yourself to earn this money. So I guess for me, I was never, I was just always thrilled with this concept of thinking, well, why not? Why couldn't I buy this little business? And I remember having a bit of a Donald Trump moment of, wow, look at me and this is awesome. And for anyone that's been involved in small business, that quickly evaporates in the first few years and you get broker and broker. And I was getting at one point my brother to siphon petrol out of my mother's car when she wasn't looking until he got a mouthful of petrol one day and said, I'm never doing that for you again, sister. And literally I was hand to mouth. I still remember my, worst moment was my grandma gave me this $20 and I remember just thinking, oh, this is just so bad that here I'm grovelling for $20 towards petrol money from my grandma.
So you're flush working at Coles and all the other part-time jobs. You then go and put everything into Carman's.
Into this one basket. And look, for a period of time, I used to have to work other jobs as well. I'd always still babysit, and I still remember a few years in thinking, I can't believe I've got to go back and I was a gift wrapper at a Henry Bucks and menswear store at Christmas time.
Oh, the old Henry Bucks.
And I think, oh my gosh, I've been working so hard. I can't believe I have to go and wrap Christmas presents for other people in this really dungeon kind of underground room. Anyway, do you know what? It sets you up though.
It does.
And I don't regret any of that because it's made me who I am today.
Tell me more about the why not attitude. Is that just something that's part of the Creswell gene?
No, well, I married into the Creswell family, so I think you can, I was brought up by, a particularly very strong mother who just instilled it in me from a very young age. And I constantly work with, my kids. I've got 4 kids under the age of 13 to
Good luck
try
with that.
Yeah, people say, what about running Carman? I go, that's a walk in the park.
Can't wait to get to work.
Yes. But I really spend, quite a bit of time with my kids going, why not? Why couldn't you do that? And really making them feel confident.
Wow.
Because that's a really strong life skill to have.
Can I come at that from the other point of view?
Yeah.
Because I was raised the complete opposite. If I was going to mow the lawn, I'd mow over my feet. If I was going to go surfing, I'd get eaten by a shark. I was just, this is the psychology that I was brought up, and I've worked very hard and continue to work really hard at the why not.
Yeah.
Where for you, it's obviously come naturally and something that's top of mind. For me, it's just a constant, it leads to procrastination and it leads to not doing stuff. And I know there's a whole lot of business owners listening who I'm thinking are probably nodding their head going, yeah, that's me.
And I think I am always about this self-improvement. In fact, on the weekend, I was still just fine-tuning my New Year's resolutions from this year and changing a few things. So, for example, tonight is having dinner with my parents, and it was saying, okay, one night a week, it's to say that's when my parents come for dinner and my husband's parents, so they see my kids and we just know that it happens every week rather than sort of feeling you need to organise something. So anyway, little things like that. And I think you have to look at your life and look at who you are and go, how can I be more of who I want to be and what's holding me back? What are the blockers? And for me, having confidence has probably been the biggest success in Carman's journey, because I've always had this sort of attitude of, bite off more than you can chew and chew like crazy. And I do think it's something that I think you layer that also in with the fact that if it all, fell in a heap, I could go home to mum and dad, mum would make roast lamb, I could sleep and hop under the doona and tomorrow,
sounds pretty good.
And so I think...
does this why not attitude, does that mean you then you just go for it, you build what do they say, jump and build the parachute on the way down, or Are you very considered and do your numbers and calculate it all out and then go, hey, why not?
What I think I've learnt over the years is to be a very quick decision maker, but to weigh up the risk pretty quickly. So I don't in fact, I'm super risk adverse when it comes to things like bungee jumping or,
all the cliche stuff.
Yes, all that stuff. However, when it comes to a business risk, very quickly I'd say, well, what's the worst thing that could happen if this doesn't work out? And often what your greatest fear is kind of not the end of the world. You might be a bit embarrassed or, I launch something and I fail, whatever the thing might be. And so I quickly say, well, hang on, what's the risk of that? And I try and say to people who work for me at Carman's, if you're going to come to me and ask for forgiveness and not permission, which is what I want you to do, I'm really sorry I didn't ask, but this is what went wrong, just weigh up what that conversation looks like. And if it's saying, look, I hired in a person to help with this mail out and, it cost a few $100s, no problem. However, if you come and say, I let the guy double stack the truck and we've got $100,000 of squash muesli, it's a very different conversation. Yeah. So try and always look at, and I think that helps you make quicker decisions. And that is another trait that I've learned, that you do need to be pretty fast at making decisions in a fast-paced business. Otherwise, you're the biggest catalyst for growth, because everything's stopping with you not making a decision.
For those business owners listening, Carolyn, who are going, I wish I was more like Carolyn, can it be learnt, or is it just...
I think it can, and I think
you don't have to say that. You can just go, you know what, guys, your stuff.
I think that the first bit is, if you don't have the confidence, practice doing things that you're good at, and maybe do less of the things that you're not good at. You don't have to be really good. I was laughing with my husband on the weekend. He's doing this cold water challenge where he goes and he's jumping into a freezing swimming pool at, 7 degrees.
That German guy, what's his name?
Exactly, Hoff. Listen to that.
Yeah.
So, and I said to him, do you know what, that's not something I need to do. And it's okay. You don't have to do every challenge that comes your way, or, do really self-reflect on what you need to do and what would make you a happier person, a better business person. What do you need to learn? I remember in the early days saying, well, hang on, I don't know how to read a profit and loss. Who do I know that might be able to teach me how to, no money? And I'd go into, my friend's dad and after dinner and say, hey, could you just teach me the basics of this for half an hour? And everyone's always happy to help if you're specific with what you ask, and then you work out, well, what do I need to learn? And so, I don't have an MBA, I don't have a business degree, but I've got 25 years of asking questions, reading business books, listening to podcasts like this. And
how quickly did you get, because again, a lot of small business owners, we try to do everything ourselves, either because we're control freaks or because the cash flow is not there to resource it out. How quickly did you realise that there are things you're really good at that you should focus on that are going to grow Carman's, and then all the other stuff either needed to be deleted or delegated?
Look, it probably took a while. It actually, the real growth of Carman's has happened since I had my kids. But because before I had the kids, I could work crazy hours, I could be a total control freak, and I thought no one could probably do it as well as I could. And then, I had to get people in, and all of a sudden I realised that I could actually spend more time doing on the stuff that I was actually quite good at, and less time. I remember saying, well, why don't you do the invoicing and I'll go off and see these clients? And that...
Interesting. So you were forced...
I was forced
to stand back.
To stand back. And then what I've realised is...
Have more kids.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I have 4 children. I just kept going, the business just benefits each time. But I think that sense of looking at the biggest impact you can have on your business. What's the game-changing stuff? And then stop doing what you don't need to do. Look at your to-do list and scrub a couple of things off it. And I think at Carman's we've been very focused on brand Carman's, on what we do. We don't do private label, and we don't run around and do a whole heap of other stuff. People know us as a very tight, I think, obviously I'm biased, but well-respected business, of knowing our
It is
knitting.
tight. In fact, I've got to get to marketing later, but your branding is so tight and consistent, and like there is no mistaking when you are in the world of Carman's.
Thank you. That
My
makes
pleasure.
me very...
We'll find out how you do that later. But can you then reflect on a moment? And I'm sure you've told the Carman story. We'll get into the present day very soon. But it is interesting because this show goes global, and there'll be people who don't know Carman's, believe it or not, despite the fact being in 32 countries.
So,
but my question is, was there a moment? It hasn't all been roses, right?
Oh
was there
my
a moment?
Gosh, are you serious?
Where you've really looked at yourself in the mirror and gone, Carolyn, I'm not sure this is...
Oh my gosh, if I could have given this business away, if I could have shut it down, I absolutely would have. I still remember ending up going to a counsellor, and I was probably 5 years in, and I just said, this is a disaster. I'm working so hard. I'm making no money, and what am I doing this for? And by then I literally was hand to mouth financially. Every cent. I was running to the bank every day. I had a $4,000 overdraft, banging. In those days you had cheques, banging on the door saying, please, can you process these checks, otherwise knowing that my checks were going to bounce that night. Like I said, doing whatever I could. Like
Tears?
Constantly. And it tests your integrity as a person, being broke for a long period of time. And then so I couldn't do it. Like I couldn't shut it down because I owed money, I owed the bank. And so all I could do was just, work as hard as I could to try. And I wasn't that I'd lost faith, but I was... Trust me, there was plenty of times.
So what made you keep going?
I think it was the pride of thinking, I guess I've always thought, okay, so I'd go in and I'd do a presentation and they'd say, no, we're not taking it. And, and I'd say, well, why not? And they'd say, well, you need a barcode. I go, right, leave that with me. And I'd go away and I'd work on what I needed to do and how I could, get a barcode or a nutritional panel. And I will still remember the day that I had this big appointment with a major supermarket chain, Coles Myer, and I'd walked up there and I'd stupidly got there about 2 hours early.
Oops.
Bad strategy when you're super duper nervous.
Yeah.
And did about...
Gives you 2 hours to think about it, right?
And do, so many nervous wheeze waiting for eventually my name to be called out, and, did my little presentation. And I'll never forget this angel, Graham McShane, who said to me, I'll tell you what, I'll give you 20 stores, deliver it in yourself, and let's just see how it sells. And you have never seen 20 Coles stores more magnificently taken care of. I'd park the Daewoo behind the Linfox semi-trailers, and I'd run in and I'd put Uncle Toby's on the bottom shelf. And I used to be, because I worked in the supermarket, I'd put me at eye level and bless my mother, who would stand at local Coles Malvern, and if anyone wafted past Muesli, she'd say, this is the most amazing muesli. My husband hasn't stopped raving about it. And,
love it.
Yeah. And you know what? It's just been this slow evolution. I used to leave samples for the in the tea room of the guys that worked at Coles, saying, if you see anyone buying muesli, let them know about Carman's.
That's beautiful. And I've told the story. I used to work with a fellow in advertising, Kevin Luscombe, who you may or may not have heard of.
Yes,
sort of a bit of an FMCG legend.
Yes.
And he would, with people like you, heads of FMCG companies, he'd run these courses. And the first, you'd think you'd be going to the big workshop or boardroom and getting the lectures from Kevin. The first thing he would do is take you down to the local supermarket, have you stand in front of the aisle in which your product was, and just observe people buying it and not buying, picking up the competitors' product, putting it back, looking at the label. Was there a moment when you were unable, or maybe you still do, but unable to have that connection with your tribe?
Not at all.
So how do you maintain that?
For me, I happen, whether I was born with it or I happen to have a very grateful heart. And I have never, at no point in this journey, have I taken any of this for granted. And we are lucky in Australia that I can. Never.
Beautiful.
Oh my gosh. My kids get so embarrassed. If I am in the supermarket and someone has a Carman's product in their trolley, you can't avoid me. I'm going to go up. I'm going to thank you. I'm going to shake hands. Yeah, exactly. And they go, you are so embarrassing. And I go, that's what puts dinner on your table. Don't ever lose sight.
What do you say to that person with the product?
I say, hey, I just noticed that you've got Carman's in your trolley. That's my business, and it's so exciting to see you buying it. And they go, oh, really? I love it. I often have the clusters on yogurt after dinner. That's my little snack, or, my healthy dessert. And I think that if you constantly feel grateful and feel thrilled, if I get, I've just had a meeting about we're having this amazing success in China. And I still go, oh my gosh, and I'm like I said, I don't know if I could ever teach someone to feel like that. And I think that, once again, I practice with my kids every night. We say, what are you grateful for? And you do want to constantly stop and not take whatever's happening in your life or your business success for granted.
It sounds like you're one of those business owners, Carolyn, that celebrates the small wins, the big wins.
Always.
Many don't.
Yes.
What's your sort of philosophy in at HQ around celebrating success?
Totally. So often, we'll put a bottle of champagne on everyone's desk, or we've got a bell that will ring, or then an email will go out, or we're very conscious that you should. And the success might be, so we have quite an interesting sort of the way that we run our strategic process might be sort of quite interesting for small business owners to think about. So we sort of say, well, there is business as usual. There's the stuff you always do. But if this is where we want to be in 3 years' time, what could you do in your role to either do something that you're doing currently and you'll do it better, which is called an excellence initiative, to do something brand new that we've never done before, and that's an innovation initiative, or something, I have a strong bent on technology, something that where we could bring technology in to improve the way that we operate. So everyone works on these ideas. So these are above and beyond what you normally do. Mm-hmm. So the whole thing's called our initiatives projects. And so we might have 60 of those every year. And then when one of those gets achieved, people will celebrate, we'll talk about it, ring the bell.
Are they something that gets set up at the start of the year?
Yes.
Or is a staff? Okay, so a staff member doesn't come midway through and go, no. I've got an innovative initiative.
And then there's a bonus on part of your bonus is on, and every person from receptionist on up has an initiative and would know that they are incentivised. So the reality is that for each year you're doing 60 new projects where you're doing something a lot better than you were, and that's on a big business, like Carman's. But each person would have one or two things that they're going to just plug away and think, it'd be a bit of a game changer if we really changed the way that we viewed couriers and the way that we knew which couriers to book, and that we had a good document or a system, or we went to tender, or the way that we process something, and then that culminates in improving the whole business. And I think if you look at a business, if I look at our business, you want to look at it every 5 years and go, really, it's quite a transformed business from where it was 5 years ago. If you're feeling that it's just business as usual, maybe there are other things. And like I said, often it might be technology coming in to go, well, hang on, how might that improve the way that we operate?
Carman's is such a household name. Certainly in Victoria, I guess it's the same nationally. And I'm trying to figure out, how do you get there? And I've thought about it and I've gone, well, you're in supermarkets, so you can't, if you go down the cereal aisle or the muesli bars aisle, you're not going to miss it. So you've got the benefit of distribution, which many, a service business doesn't have, for example. I'm wondering, did you at some point run some famous TV campaign that the creative strategy just gone and nailed it? Can you put your finger on why it is a household name?
Okay, so couple of things, right? One, I've been doing this for 25 years.
Yes.
So we're not an overnight success story. We're not a brand that just invented itself.
I've never met one.
Yes. So I've been doing it for a long time. The other thing is, I own Carman's 100% myself. We don't have any investors. I've had no money for big, expensive marketing campaigns. So what we've had to do is just honestly treat customers really well the whole journey. And I guess that probably comes more from me and my philosophy on treating people as I'd like to be treated. But then I've done lots of, whether it's media or, we did get a really big kick when I hosted a cooking show, and I was a judge on a show called Recipe to Riches. And we literally had a 10% increase in our sales year on year from people watching me on television, and Channel 10 paid me to be on the show.
Love it.
So there's stuff like that I'm always quite, smart of saying, well, hang on, we can't do other things, but this is something we can do. And I think that if you give, we put the money absolutely back into our ingredients. And the one thing people would say when they have a Carman's product, and, this is what I, will viciously defend, or will be the voice of the consumer at Carman's, that if you put our product on a plain white plate and you eat it, it's a good product. This is not marketing puffery. This is not some beautiful TV commercial, and when you take all the wrappers off, you go, oh, that's a bit disappointing. And honestly, consumers will come back week after week to buy it. as opposed to something that's amazing on television, but you're disappointed when you get it. And I don't know why that's so novel to people.
It's amazing because, I mean, at the end of we talk on this show and other marketing magazines and blogs talk about, whether it's social media or whether it's viral videos or whether it's advertising or networking. But the best marketing is a great product or service. And if you put the love and attention into that, then surely that's
correct.
The best thing that you can do.
And then the end game is that you might say to your mate, hey, this is a nice muesli bar, would you like one, right? Word of mouth. The old school format of talking about it. And that, to me, is the most powerful thing, as well as packaging.
I would say, yes, packaging. Yeah. Word of mouth, I think, is the result of great product. Word of mouth doesn't just happen.
Correct.
So many businesses say word of mouth's the best marketing, but, yes, but you've got to do something in order to get that right.
And a few little tips on that. I think that you need to under-promise and over-deliver, and you need to embed the voice of the consumer categorically in your business. You need to be so concerned with how they get the product, if they're going to enjoy it, that if you are constantly thinking about them and taking care of them, that, and I will say to my big buyers in huge supermarket chains, my number one stakeholder is the consumer, because they've got to come in with their $5, whatever, and pick up my product and go to the register and hand over that money, and that is the hardest bit of the journey. With all due respect, if I focus on that, you're going to be happy. It's not about me making you happy with tickets to a fancy football match and us, boozing along and me not worrying. Like that has never been how I've run Carman's. In fact, I've been anti that kind of... Yeah. I'm very much about saying, if I make my consumers happy, then you're going to want to stock me, because people are going to want to buy my product. And once again, it seems really simple.
I also think that you make your staff happy, and we're going to talk about your workplace shortly, but I had Jen Lim she was originally from Zappos, and she now has the agency Delivering Happiness. I had her on the show, and she's all about, and so is Tony Shea. He's all about making your staff happy.
Yes.
Get customers as secondary, which is kind of... You probably do that without probably knowing it. You will focus on having very happy customers, but you've got very happy staff, I'm guessing.
Yes, well, I don't think that I will always say to my staff that the customers are paying your salary. So I don't think they have to be mutually exclusive, the one you care about more.
Yeah.
For me, the customer comes first, and then that, and we all feel like, I have this, like that we're servants to the customer, that we're all at any point in time.
Is the customer always right?
I think so. Like in a way of saying, if you're annoyed about something, well, tell us, and we need to take that on board. Whether you might have a skewed view of why that's annoying you. I remember we used to have these little flecks around when we wrote the name Carman's, little sort of like a pencil had sort of come off the edge of the wording, and the customer would say, it drives me crazy, and I have to get a texter out and mark the boxes. And you go, well, at the time I thought you're crazy, and I thought maybe that is a bit annoying, and it happened to be.
Surely that was a minority.
Yeah. But what I'd say is we also do the similar thing where my staff, we now have a beautiful like an upmarket factory outlet where we sell, things that we might have, become close to use by date, or we sell the whole Carman's range. Plus, we have a space where people can come and try everything, and in that, all of my staff have to work in that store. It doesn't matter how senior you are.
Where's that?
It's in a place called Huntingdale, so it's just right near Chadstone.
So is that you almost a bit of a little destination store?
Yes, it's a destination store. We do.
I think 5am Yogurt might have done something like that too.
And it's great. So people will come in as a destination trip, and you might come in and spend half an hour, and you'll be shown, things in the range. We'll have little samples. We have something called truth booths where we might get your advice on different things we're about to bring out, and we'll give you a voucher.
Do you actively promote that?
It's just only open in the last few weeks, so it's a brand new thing that we're doing. But as I said, all of our staff have to come and take over on the lunch shift, and it's very good for my staff to have to talk to customers and understand what are their concerns, or what it's like if you have an anaphylactic child or you're gluten-free, and to be able to be across the store. So
I love that.
Yeah.
How will that impact your supermarket relationships at all?
Yeah, at all. Well, at the end of the day, what you want is people to, and particularly with e-commerce, because the difference with e-commerce, and I happen to to have lunch with one of the guys that started Chemist Warehouse recently, and he was talking about Jack, in fact.
He's been on this show.
Oh, has he?
Yeah.
Yes, he's marvellous. So, and he was talking about the thing with e-commerce, it's a little bit harder to put other things in your trolley. When people go into a store, they'll put lots of stuff, they'll wander and they'll say, oh, that looks interesting, and they'll pop it in. Whereas e-commerce, you're often just looking for what you're going to buy. And
well, yeah, I've just emceed the big e-commerce conference on the Gold Coast last week, and I think the trick to that is making the experience online interesting. I get my blades from Dollar Shave Club,
yes,
and I always just go to get my, I'm just going to get my blades, and I end up with the conditioner, the shampoo, the shaving gel, and they're very good at getting out other things in the trolley. But I think there's a much greater challenge in e-commerce than maybe you have, where you've got people right in front of your product. We are talking to Carolyn Creswell, who is the founder or owner of Carman's Muesli, both,
and current managing director,
and mum of four. So you 100% own the business. You've got 4 kids under 13. You're all in. You love the business. How's your work-life balance going?
And people, I don't know if they don't believe me when I say it, this is my number one thing that I like to talk about, because I think that you can actually have, a ripper career, and I have a very interesting career that I love, but you can actually still be a great parent and have a lot of work-life balance. The way to do that is work out what to say no to. And I'm particularly good at the graceful no. So if someone asked you in the street for $20, you would say no. But if someone asked for 20 minutes of your time, everyone always feels that they just have to give it, and it's mean or it's not nice to say no to that. And I would say that I protect my time viciously in saying, well, often I have to say, well, what's in it for me? So a supplier wants to come, or a new supplier wants to try and come and build a relationship with me, or that wants to take me out for lunch. I mean, I kind of have I don't do coffee policy. I rarely see external people. I try and only really see people that work at Carman's. And
I feel honoured.
No, of course, But what I think is that if you really protect your time, so you're doing the important stuff that you need to do, then I try and work out things like I said, having my parents for dinner, one night a week, so that I know that just happens. And then hopefully, the aim is for me that I have weekends where I don't work at all.
So, graceful no.
Yes.
I'm guessing you put your social things into your calendar as much as your work things, so that they block space before anything else comes up.
And I am a big one for things at home. So, with 4 young kids, I'm much better to say to someone, hey, come around to our place for dinner, or come around and have a glass of wine.
Bowl of muesli.
Yeah, exactly. And I find, I think you have to constantly self-reflect. And if you end up going to too many networking things, and I used to do this in the day, I would go to the opening of a paper bag, anything I was possibly invited to. And then what I have found over time is if I'm more selective, I actually need some thinking time too. And sometimes plan out what a perfect day looks like for you, and then I'll look at my year and I'll try and always, whenever I've done something, think, well, hang on, was that a good use of my time? So then I'll do more of what I enjoy, or that I think is a good use, and less of what I feel is sort of sapping my life energy. And
so if I'm an employee at Carman's,
yes,
how does that then spill out into me? Because the boss has got it together. Have I got it together as well?
Absolutely. Well, what I would say, and it's interesting because people who've worked with me for a while very much get that I detest meetings, and I try and get to the point quite quickly. So just come and tell me. Don't do a big 10-page PowerPoint presentation on something. Yeah. Just come and say, hey, Karen, what do you think about this? Or can we just chew the fat about this? And that, to me, is much more powerful than, you don't need to impress me. Mm-hmm. And I just had a new guy that started working with us, and I love this. And he was from a very fancy, and I employ these people who've worked at all these, very fancy big FMCG companies. He said, what's amazing working here is we don't do any business with ourselves. We don't write any reports to impress ourselves. Nice. And he said, 80% of my time in my previous role was just trying to impress my boss.
Justifying your existence.
And I often don't reckon my boss ever even read the report.
This is why I love small business. Yeah. I mean, seriously, having also come from a corporate background, people would have meetings for meeting's sake. Oh. Every meeting had to be an hour.
Yeah.
Like, can we meet at 3 o'clock? Yeah, and then they block 3 till 4. Like, what's that about?
Yeah.
And often, as you say, you could nail a 5-minute conversation and get to the end and the result much quicker.
And
less
I
pain.
will push back on people. I'll say no one is allowed to do a PowerPoint presentation just for me. So someone said the other day, "Oh look, I've done it. I won't bring it and show you. I've done it just for my notes." And I said, if you want to choose to do that for yourself, and you know you're the one that's going to look at it, that's absolutely fine. But when it comes to me, let's just have a conversation about what you need to talk about, and I think you can get a lot more achieved, and it's the flow of business when you're just a bit more, when you just cut through all that bullshit.
So staff at Carman's got a lot of flexibility. Can they work from home? Can they work from the park? Can they work from holiday? Well, not holiday. But...
So we've just moved into our wonderful new head office, which I'm super, super proud of, and I spent a lot of time looking at offices in Australia, around the world, and what I felt was the latest research and stuff that really resonated with me. So we have, lots of different things from stand-up desks, so you don't have to be sitting down. We have stand-up meeting spaces so that you can have a meeting and there's no chairs. We have lots of sort of bench seating. We have a gym with classes, a yoga room, a pool table, all the fun stuff as well. We've got a wonderful conservatory we're just building at the moment, which has got a garden and barbecue and outdoor areas, so you can have walking meetings outside. It's a very kind of dynamic space where we have a massage room with a automatic massage chair, and everyone knows that they're encouraged that every week they should go and have at least a 10-minute massage.
At least,
just to be able to sit in the chair. I actually had a 20-minute one myself today, where you sit in the chair, because what you sometimes need is thinking time. You actually need to get out of the noise and actually think, okay, what else am I going to deal with? And in a crazy life of noise, sometimes that space is super important. So I found, since we've moved, just the sense of cross-collaboration of different people working and the conversations. We've got an in-house chef and you can order food for lunch every day. And we actually have the best thing is called Make Time Not Dinner. And so she has an enormous freezer and you can go down and, choose whatever if you want to take home anything for dinner.
Pay?
And it's all, you pay. You pay. But, it's...
fantastic. And by the way, you only got 35 staff.
Yeah.
This is not it's not as if there's 500,
No.
5,000 people.
Correct. And so it's very, I think it's a very dynamic and interesting work environment where people...
what are you hoping to achieve from it? I mean, it sounds obvious, but are you hoping that people never go home? Are you hoping
No,
that...
not at all. What I hope is that I didn't do any of this. I did it because I feel that this is what can enrich people's lives and that it's stuff that I would love myself. And whenever I've had a policy, I think if I would love that. So we have a guy that comes in and washes your car on a cycle basis. And do you know, of all the things we do, how much people love the fact that they don't have to think about washing their car and they go down, their car's all washed and clean and they didn't even have to leave work for it. And all of these little things are things that say, hey, my workplace actually cares for me as a human and that they want me to enjoy my life.
What's your staff retention rate like?
Pretty much 100%. People are working at Carman's, and I spent a long time trying to make sure I hire the right people.
Do you pay well?
We pay normal.
Right. So all this
in
is,
fact, a lot of the time, people have taken pay cuts. So it's normally the case people will take a pay cut or to move to Carman's, or they will. Well, sometimes if you want to go and work in a really unpleasant industry or an unpleasant place, they've got to pay a lot more money to get people to move there. Whereas when people come and work at Carman's, they go, I feel so free just to get done what needs to get done. And if they want to come in early and work out in the gym, or we have an infrared sauna, and often apparently there's people in there chatting away, sweating their heads off wearing their gym gear, sweating their heads off. And this is all, like I said, it's brand new. We've just moved in, but I never knew how it would all come together until we were there. And, I saw a guy today, new employee, and we have these telephone booths. He was coming out of the booth, and I said, I'm so excited to see that it's getting used, because you never know if everything will get used. And I probably pushed the boat out there on some pretty radical things. We have I call it, my mum used to call it the panel beaters. When she used to go and get her hair done and stuff, she'd just say, I'm going to get the panels beat. And so we have a room called the panel beaters, and that has a chair where you can get your hair washed, or, you can do your makeup and get ready when you want to go out.
So I'm going to represent some of the business owners listening to this and go, sounds like a bit of a wank to me. You know what? Do you get that?
So,
I mean, I'm going, that sounds like an amazing workplace, but it also sounds expensive. It also sounds like, boy, what point do you stop rewarding the staff and having them get on with the job?
So what I would say about that is I happen to have bought a very big old chocolate factory that had 1 trillion rooms. In fact, there's so much space and so many rooms, I didn't really know what to do with them. So the architect would say, well, what do you want to do with that strange room at the back of the female toilet? And I'd think about it. And I went on eBay and I bought a crazy old dusty pink retro couch. And I said, well, we'll just put some mirrors in there and put some chairs. And so a lot of this stuff is not expensive. And a lot of it is stuff that people do in their own time. So if they want to go in there, they've got a space where it's got a $9 coat rack from Bunnings, and they can get themselves changed and put their makeup on. And what I think is, in this day and age, sometimes transport and travel is what's driving people crazy. So if you're working, as I said, we're in Huntingdale and you live out in the suburbs and you want to go into the city on a Friday night, it's really nice that you can actually get ready at work, that you're not having to, that you've got a nice space. And
you're right. It's this high perceived value to your staff that low cost to you in a lot of the cases. I mean, I guess a massage chair doesn't cost a lot.
No.
The pink couch doesn't cost a lot.
Correct.
Having the chef heat, that's they're paying for the food.
They're paying for the food. So people...
You're smart.
So people, I think, are a bit intrigued, but then when you think about it, you go, well, hang on, that actually sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
And I guess when the chef started working there, and she pays me rent to be in the building, so, she's not a Carman's employee. And so I said to her, I don't know how many people are going to want to have lunch from you every day, but we'll just see. And I'm a big one for suck it and see. We'll just try it. I said, everyone will probably want to go down the street. But literally, so we do something called huddle. So at 10 a.m, it's a Vern Harnish concept that the whole
team hug.
Yes, sort of. The whole company comes together. We quickly go around a circle, and if there's anything you're working on that day, who are you going to speak? So I'd say, I'm going to speak to you today, or whatever the case may be. So I'm going to see this supplier, or I've got a Skype call with China. And so then someone will come up and say, when you speak to the people in China, I've been desperately trying to get some data out of them and no one's responding to my emails. So could you drop that into the conversation? Now, no one can ever say at Carman's that they don't know what's going on. So it's like the pulse of the business. At 10:15 it is every day. We all get together, and it takes about 10 minutes. And so I think sometimes businesses can operate in silos. And
sometimes
everyone,
a lot.
Yeah. So everyone from the receptionist to the CFO will have their say. And often it's, my take is that if you ever say, I didn't know that was happening, well, you're just not listening at huddle, because you're going to know every day. And I think that's a very simple, low cost. So that, and the other one is that we do the quiz out of the local newspaper, and at lunchtime, and that's another low cost way with a small team.
Before or after the Sudoku?
Yeah, no. But it's how do you connect it doesn't have to be a lot of money to do this.
It's just very clear to me as you're talking, the words "de Fred" come to mind, whereas it's like, it's obvious. It's like, these are obvious things, right? I mean, they're human beings, and we want to be nurtured and cared for and shown that we're important, and it doesn't have to cost a fortune.
And we want to, I think in this day and age, we actually also want to be reasonably sort of healthy, and we want to do a bit of exercise, and we want to, food matters. Obviously, we're a food company, so if that you can go down and you can, get some, lovely, minestrone soup from our freezer at work, and you're going to go home and say, that cost me $8 and you'll heat up a big bowl of soup and, get some crusty bread and go to your partner, hey, dinner's ready. It's just the difference of making someone's life that bit easier.
Love it.
And all the things I try and do is
Let's
with that in mind.
talk marketing.
Yeah, sure.
You have a great brand.
Thank you.
What's branding to you?
It's about how my business makes you feel. And my aim is that you feel that you can trust me, that you feel that you believe that we work with integrity, that we are a business that you enjoy doing business with.
It's an emotional connection.
It's an emotional connection.
Beautiful.
And I nurture that and I take care of that very carefully because that is a trust that all the marketing in the world is very hard to build a very strong brand connection. And for me, it's kind of how I would like to be treated too.
You have an incredibly visually consistent brand.
Thank you.
How?
We're just very tight. Do you know, the girl that runs all of our branding is the first. I put an ad in the local paper, and if ever anyone thinks, well, where do you start? I always start with a local paper, and because I think it's really nice if people aren't travelling an enormous distance, and I put an ad for someone to come and work 4 hours a week when I was having my first baby to do the invoicing. I thought, that would be the start. And she's now developed through the Carman's journey, and it's probably almost, I think it's roughly 17 years for her. No, actually, I know how long it is because Will's about to turn 14, so it's 15 years then. She'd been there a year, I think. And so, she's grown up to now be running the Carman's, branding, and she doesn't have, none of us are kind of, we sort of laugh sometimes, we're sort of frauds in this office.
Yeah.
We just do it because we love it, and people think, oh wow, we must have some MBAs or amazing.
The old imposter syndrome, hey?
But,
surely this can't be us.
I know.
You talked about the best marketing being a great product. I get that. Outside of that, maybe we talk marketing communications. Is there anything particular that you've done that's really worked well to build the brand?
I particularly love this example where I thought about it and I thought, well, hang on, why don't I write to everyone in Australia with a surname Carman? Because that's kind of cool. So I, looked up in the white pages, wrote everyone a letter saying, hi, we've got this product we've just released on the shelves at Coles. Thought you might think it's, fun, and here's a sample. It didn't cost a lot of money, but the cut through of something like that, because it was personalised, it was something that was different, novel. And, I still have the letter where Doris Carman wrote back to me and said, I'm so excited to meet members of the Carman's family tree. And I'm saying, we're not really related, Doris, but, enjoy your muesli bar.
That is genius. So you wrote to anyone with a surname Carman and sent them a product, or just said hi?
Sent them a product.
Oh, that's genius.
So now we're much more sophisticated in how we do certain things. I mean, I have to say I'm a little, for our business, I feel that, the answer is not just social media, because advertising on social media has become very expensive. And if it used to be, whatever it was 5 years ago, it was all about how many Facebook fans you could get, and I remember when we hit 100,000 Facebook fans, we thought that was the be-all and end-all. But then very quickly, Facebook would say, well, you can only actually speak to those 100,000 people if you pay us. And I think it's dropped down now to, I think it's less than 16% of people.
Much less.
Yeah, much less. And they keep reducing that down. If you just
boost it.
Yeah, do an organic post, you can't reach those people. So now we're trying to do more stuff of our owned media, of things that we can control more. And I am very proud we do something called Carman's Kitchen Table. And we have about, I think, 4,000 people who are on that. And every week we go out and we'll ask them a question like, would you prefer the packaging to be black and purple or black and green for this product? Or does it matter to you if we put...
How do you go to them? Email?
So we go out with email. So it depends, but it might be on a certain example. So say we're bringing out a new porridge flavour. We're doing quite a lot of sort of novel stuff in porridge. So we'll send out, say, 3 flavours and say, cook these up at home and let us know what you think. And then, we send them. So those people, and it depends on what you've told us you're interested in and what products that you buy or what's happening in your household. So another area for us that we're very keen on is bars for boys. We know a lot of teenage boys consume a lot of, say, protein bars. So we'll send those families different flavours, and often it might be the wording on a packet. Would you like it to say, honey roasted nut with, anyway, you get the gist. And then from that, so we do a survey like that every week. And from that, that's how we really make our tweaks and changes, which we're doing all the time. So we've actually, that's a huge part. We actually, often we sort of laugh, we don't do anything without asking the kitchen table what they think. And that's been an amazing leap for our brand.
How's this anti-sugar campaign affected Carman's?
Yeah, so what was amazing, and what we do is we look at international trends when they're coming in, and then we sit down and say, well, what could we do? So a lot of our products are low in sugar. So we just went through and we put sugar decals on heaps of, decals like a little... just a little call out on the front of the pack and would say, less than 6 grams of sugar or whatever the products, or no added sugar for a lot of the porridges, and amazing increase in sales. And so
you've taken the fight
absolutely.
up to them.
So it's actually been amazing for us.
Brilliant.
And we've brought out a few more sugar-free products, as I said, in our porridges, which have been, very quick to be sort of quite successful. So, not everything we do will always be launched as being successful, but it's about saying, oh, well, let that go. We're letting a product go this week and bringing out something that's new and exciting. And you have to, I found that really hard in the start, letting stuff go. But as it's sort of, I guess, almost like culling your wardrobe at home. But you know how much better it feels when you've the exciting new thing comes in, or the product that we get to release because we've let something go.
Carolyn, your mum and dad are waiting at home. What a wonderful story. Well done, and
thank you.
I wish you massive success for the future.
Oh, thanks everyone for listening.
Well, there you go, team. Carman Muesli's Carolyn Creswell. Wow-wee. There was like an idea a minute in that interview. How generous was she? Big thank you to Peter Letts and the team at B Media Production, by the way, for use of their studio in doing that interview at the last minute. Really appreciated, guys. Coming up, I'm going to share my top 3 attention grabbers from that fireside chat with Carolyn. Plus, in this week's Monster Prize Draw, another motivated listener shares an idea they've learnt from the show and how it's positively impacted their business. This show is made possible thanks to American Express Business Explorer Credit Card, a card that lets your business expenses reward you. I asked Amex member Chris Gray, CEO of property buying business Your Empire, how he benefits from using his Amex.
I use Amex for the whole of my business. Literally every single thing I pay in my business, even down to effectively my staff or my contractors and my rent at home, everything goes on the Amex card. Because with Amex, you get the most points for your dollar spent. And I convert those points into frequent flyer rewards points. I fly 10 or 15 times a year, only business and first class, including those beautiful A380 suites you get on Singapore Airlines where you get your own bedroom, and I fly for free. I don't pay for a single flight.
But it's not all upside, or is it?
So I've still got 1 million points because I spend so much money in my business. I've then got a pre-planned 10 trips for next year of where do I want to go. I need to find excuses to go to different countries.
This is a massive first world problem, Chris.
It is, but I'm willing to put up with it. So there's very few people that can force themselves through the pain barrier, but I'm willing to do it. I've trained myself.
New American Express card members who apply and spend $3,000 in the first 3 months from the card approval date receive a bonus 100,000 membership rewards points. You got to love it when your business expenses reward you. Search Amex Business to find out how. New American Express card members only. Offer ends November 30, 2017. Terms and conditions apply. I always wanted to do that. All right. Oh, seriously, how am I going to choose a top 3 attention grabbers from that chat with Carolyn Creswell? Like there was like a top 25 attention grabbers. Anyway, we'll give it a go. Attention grabber number 1. I love the fact that Carolyn wrote to every person in Australia with the surname Carman and sent them some product. Just a fun, crazy idea. Love it. Should be more of that. Attention grabber number 2. I love how Carolyn gracefully says no to a whole lot of opportunities. Said it before, and I'll say it again. What you say no to determines what you say yes to. Attention grabber number 3. I love her disdain for meetings. I love it. And if she does have a meeting, it's a stand-up meeting or go for a walk meeting. Makes it a bit shorter. Should be more of that. Now, that's what grabbed my attention. Did you know that I transcribe, or I don't do it personally, but I have transcribed almost every episode of the Small Business Big Marketing Show, and this one is no different. You can find the transcription for that interview with Carman over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/421. I'd suggest that'd be a good thing to get, download, print out, and start making notes all over it, as long as you implement them. Well, let's go back in time and play a jingle from, in this case, way back in 1989. What a year. You know, back then the number one song was Madonna's Like a Prayer. Love that song. I was a bit of a Madge fan. The number one TV show, Seinfeld. Wasn't a fan of Seinfeld back then, am now. And the number one film was Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. Can't say I saw that. I also started my advertising career in 1989, and my first client was Gillette. And the campaign I worked on, the best a man can get.
You're looking sharp, you're looking good, you've come so far. And we know how to make the most of who you are. Father to son, it's what we've always done. Gillette, the best a man can get. On so many faces, it's plain to see. We give you all we have to give for all a man can be. Where the race is run, you're the champion. Gillette.
The Gillette Atra Plus system with the Lubra Smooth strip for the best a man can get.
The best a man can get.
I love that jingle, and I loved the heady days of the 80s, which were coming to a close in 1989. Plenty of money going around, though. Plenty of big hair, big shoulder pads. It's all downhill from there. Now, what's this button do?
Come on down. It's Timbo's Monster Prize Draw.
Oh, yes, indeedly doodly. It is time to reward a motivated listener for taking action. Here's what we do around here on the Monster Prize Draw. You can send me an email, tim@timreid.com.au. You tell me one idea you've implemented from listening to this show and what impact it's had on your business. If I read it out on air, you'll receive a prize or two and go into the draw to win a hot lap in a racing Porsche with past guest and racing car legend Steve Richards, valued at over $2,500. I'll award that at the end of the year. To the best letter, of course. Okay, today's winner. Drum roll, please, Maestro. Leanne Shorter from the Montville Inn. And this is what Leanne has to say. I love this. She says, hey, Timbo, just wanted to let you know a couple of the marketing ideas we have implemented in our business over the last couple of years directly from your podcast and your book. My husband and I own the Montville Mountain Inn Resort in the Sunshine Coast hinterland. We both listen to your podcast, and it is interesting that we both get different ideas and messages from the same episodes. We have come across some challenges over the past few years, namely online booking agency commissions, which are pretty expensive, Airbnb, and new accommodation places being built all around us. Rather than throw our hands up in the air and say, woe is me, that sounded weird, we took on board your saying, people can copy what we do, but not who we are, and also be helpful and share your mountain of knowledge. Leanne, you are talking my language. So, with those things in mind, we started, and check this out, there's a list of things she's done, and it's just genius and simple. We started a blog sharing all about the amazing places and things to do and see in our beautiful area. Tick, what a great, helpful thing to do. We have done a couple of videos, a virtual tour on our website, which I have watched. It's fantastic. and a welcome to our email list video as well. What a great idea, sending a simple little video when someone signs up to your list. And a hello video on our pre-stay email. See, that's genius as well. When someone books and they're about to come along to the Montville Mountain Inn, they get a wonderful welcoming email from Leanne and Lyle, her partner. Leanne goes on to say, we have made all the videos ourselves. I can tell that, Leanne, but there's nothing wrong with that. And yes, they are pretty amateurish, she says. But we receive so much positive feedback that we keep doing them. That's how it works. That's the boomerang effect in action right there. We don't pretend to be anything we are not. It's too hard to be someone you're not. You got to remember who you are all the time. So just be yourself. People buy from people. One of the best received videos is the bloopers video that we put together. People love it and we still laugh at it ourselves. I've watched that. It's a lot of fun. It shows that you and Lyle are two human being business owners and it just makes you guys so accessible. I love it. We have made a PDF download of all the local cafes and restaurants, and also another idea direct from your podcast is how's this, Montville Mountain Inn Radio. It's a playlist on Spotify for people to listen to on their trip to visit us. That is genius. Most of our competitors are putting up content that is all about buy from me. Yes, push content. Not into that. We want pull content, right? But our focus is to be helpful and friendly, and hopefully when people want to come to stay in Montville, they stay with us. The best part is we have so much fun working on our helpful marketing that it is definitely a hobby and not like work at all. That's my aim for all you guys. I want the marketing of your beautiful business to become a hobby. Because when something's a hobby, you find time to do it, you're happy to throw some money at it, and it's just enjoyable. Thanks for your great podcast, Timbo, which we look forward to every week. And if ever you're up our way, please call in and say hi. Cheers, Lyle and Leanne. I'm going to be up there pretty soon. I might just do that. Oh, that is a great email with some great insights. You have won, Leanne, 2 DNA test kits from past guest Lior Rauschberger, who is the founder of My DNA. Not My DNA, but his company's called My DNA. Basically, what you do is you send a quick cheek swab, sounds disgusting, and they send you back a personalised report relating to your dieting, fitness and caffeine intake and how to improve on it, specifically tailored to you. I've done it. It's actually really good. Each one of those kits is valued at $99. Plus, Leanne, you get a backlink on the smallbusinessbigmarketing.com website, which is priceless. Well, how's that for an episode? Nearly over? Not quite. You and I cover some pretty serious marketing ground in this show. Have you listened to the chat we had with Founder Magazine's Nathan Chan? Or what about eBay superstar Paul Neuenhouse from Hooked Online and Sinker? Like that name. 2 blokes who created amazing businesses from absolute scratch. You can find both those episodes plus hundreds more over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com or subscribe free on your favourite podcast app, whichever floats your boat. Hey, I'd love to hear from you. Hit the contact button over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com where you can email me, connect with me on social media, even grab a signed copy of my Boomerang Effect book. Book. I like how English people say book. A big thanks to American Express for exclusively sponsoring this episode. Love you guys. If you love the Small Business Big Marketing Show, then let another business owner know about it by grabbing their phone and downloading it for them. You've got to do that sometimes. You've got to show people and then put it in their face and turn the volume up and go, that's what I'm talking about. Until next week, I'm Timbo Reid. Always have been, always will be. Thanks for tuning in. May your marketing be the best marketing. Bye for now.